The program is ClearView and is a public enlightenment program on AIT. And I have joining me on this segment of the program, First Lady of Niger State, Dr. Amina Sani Bello.
Ajia Amina Sani Bello, First Lady of Niger State, is a reputable medical practitioner who has proved her worth in no small measure in the field of public health. A medical expert, she has attended various national and international conferences to further enhance her medical intellect. She had wanted to be a lawyer, but destiny has a way of directing the life of human beings. Born in 1973 in Benin City, she attended Federal Government Girls College in Bakuri, Katsina State. Having performed creditably well in her school certificate examination, she proceeded to Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, for her first degree in medicine. After the completion of her study, she did a residency at Ahmadu Bello University Teaching Hospital, ABUTH. Not resting on her horse, Dr. Amina went ahead to back a master's degree in public health from Liverpool University, UK. Over the years, she has not only shown her class in the practice of public health, but has also proved her sagacity in the administrative cycle. She is an erudite medical practitioner who has contributed for a quota in the pool of knowledge through numerous paper presentations. Dr. Amina's exemplary contribution and accomplishment in the medical profession has been remarkable. It is expected that Dr. Amina would in one way or the other inject her wealth of experience and knowledge into the governance of the state through the provision of greater assistance to her husband. This woman of excellence is our guest. But before we bring her, we have a report on one of the issues she will always want to disagree with, that is, discrimination against women and girl child. ClearView was present at a roundtable discussion organized by a women advocacy group on this topic.
Women in the north of Nigeria have in the 21st century continued to raise their voice against all forms of discriminations that have tied them down for so long. This group of northern women are in the forefront of the fight against traditional superstitions that have continued to make women inferior.
I realize that it's more socio-cultural than it is about religion, and it boils down to the point that we need a reorientation. We need to understand that these religions that we hold there and we practice, we're not practicing them the way they were actually preached. So we need to reorientate not just the women, but also the men, to understand, like we said, their roles, such that there will not be a confusion or a conflict. We have to look at public policy and the laws that we have and how we are pushing for them. Like the Gender Equality Bill, why is it not being passed? What are the issues there? Is it in conflict with the people that are supposed to pass it? So I think those are the issues that we've taken from here, and we'll definitely create a structure to be able to push for those things. Like the comment was made about Serki Sanusi, Lamido Sanusi. We're in exciting times in northern Nigeria where we have someone of his caliber come out and talk about women's rights and actually champion women's rights. So I think there's a paradigm shift. It's very slow, not as fast as we wanted, but then this is not an ideal situation. So we put that in point. So yes, we're happy that we have someone like him talking, but we are saying in other states as well, we need to push for it. So we're pushing as much as possible to have open town hall meetings with them.
A lot of them are cultural biases against women that keep a woman, quote unquote, in her place. So there's a ceiling to how far she can go in life. And also poverty is a problem, because if you are poor, then you have to make decisions based on the resources available. Also, there's a large swath of our population that is ignorant on the benefits of allowing women to be the best they can be, to go to school, to work. So those are some of the problems that bring about gender disparities.
Understand the fact that there are a lot of cultural mindsets that put a ceiling for women in the society. We need to then have active government. I would say government because a lot of this need the government to lead forward with its active government effort in those areas, whether it's in providing more schools that will cater to women, encourage more parents to let their daughters go to school. Whether it's a specific intervention programs, so there's more financing for women, own business, and the rest. It needs to be a concerted and deliberate action in all areas, and influencing societal mindset change in public policies and in programs in tackling this issue.
To achieve their dreams, the group knows it must address the issue of illiteracy, particularly girl-child education in the north. It also wants the issue of primary health care for women properly addressed.
I think our laws are really important. We need to have laws that protect people. So those laws that protect people will protect women, and it will protect children as well. So, part of our, legislative duties as government or whatever is to encourage, people to be treated fairly.
The reality is that all laws we enact in this country must reflect our socio-cultural background. Many Nigerians tend to wonder why the Gender Equality Bill failed before the National Assembly. The reality Nigerians should ask themselves is if the respective members of the National Assembly, both the senators and members of the House of Representatives, if they were to take statistics and go back to their respective constituencies and ask them, do you think we should pass this gender equality bill? The reality is that the answer that most Nigerians will give their representatives is that no. So the legislatures did not pass it because they feel it does not reflect their socio-cultural background and the wishes of their respective constituents. But gradually with time, by the time that Nigeria continues to progress, it's a gradual thing. Hopefully with time things will change. And one thing we also have to understand is that some of the foreign treaties that the Federal Republic of Nigeria have signed, for instance CEDAW, that's the Convention for Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, which was passed by the United Nations in 1979 and domesticated by the Federal Republic of Nigeria in 1981, and laws like the Child Rights Act all talked about discrimination. You see, if Nigeria passed a law, for instance the Child Rights Act, that's why the fact that the National Assembly have enacted it into law, because of the federal system of government that we have, for it to become operational, because it forms part of the core powers that the state governments have, it has to go down to the respective state house assembly for them to also pass it before it becomes operational in the states. So some of the states will realize that that law passed by the National Assembly, some aspects of the law is repugnant to their own socio-cultural background.
It's women and men to be the same in the factory floors, and then you lose homemakers, then you talk about children that are delinquent, you talk about immorality, moral decadence, because the mothers that are there to take care of the children are not there. They're out there competing with the men. So now they need to be reminded that, come on, your primary responsibility is as a homemaker, but that doesn't stop you from achieving other things. As long as you're not going to relegate your homemaking to the tail end, take care of the two. If you can be able to create balance between the two, perfect. The moment the men are working to their responsibilities, women that are advocating for all these rights will have nothing to say again. The issue why you're hearing these voices is because men have failed in meeting up with their responsibilities. Once there is an advocate for men to understand, to understand their responsibility as breadwinners, not only breadwinners, what it means by being a breadwinner, it's also you can take care of your family psychologically, financially, mentally. Once men are able to do that, and the woman is enjoying her home as she ought to enjoy, to find ripples in her, and she is comfortable living, there is no longer going to be issue of women coming out, because what will she talk about again?
The northern part of Nigeria is still one of the poorest places in the world, and women are more on the receiving end.
Your Excellency, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
There are these rising cases of abandoned babies. I've read a lot of articles that you have condemned this, and some of your colleagues in the same NGO business have condemned, but there is this rising, we have these rising cases of abandoned babies. What is the way out?
Well, thank you for having me. And now the question of having abandoned babies, it's a complicated thing, and it's a social issue. Because why do why are the babies abandoned in the first place? That's the question that we have to look at. In most cases, I don't think any woman or any girl would want to abandon her baby. So if you look at most cases of these abandoned babies, you will find that it might be maybe a single girl who is not married, or even cases where a woman has gotten pregnant and cannot afford, she's married but they cannot afford to keep the baby with the present economic situation in the country, and so it's easier for them to abandon the babies. So I think the only way out is to tackle the problem right from the root of it. And what is the root of it? The social issues that we have in the country. And then most importantly, to be able to sensitize women and the general public on how to prevent unwanted pregnancies. Because in most cases, you have an unwanted pregnancy. And how do you prevent that? By ensuring that you have adequate and accessible family planning methods available. And it's one of the most important things about reproductive health issues in women. Having access to good quality and accessible and cheap family planning methods. They are actually widely available in the country, but only about 17% of our women in the country access it. A lot of it has to do with lack of knowledge about it, or misconceptions about family planning. For example, because we have so many religious beliefs and cultures, some people think that family planning is about stopping stopping pregnancies in entirety. But basically, what family planning does is allows a woman to plan when she wants to be pregnant, and when that happens, that means that pregnancy will definitely not end up as an abandoned baby. So we need to find an avenue to increase the sensitization and the distribution of these family planning commodities to women. And we can do that well, government already has a lot of family planning clinics all over the country, but we need to sensitize women to come and access these services. So we need our political leaders, our religious leaders, and as well as our traditional leaders to sensitize their people to it. And why I would say religious leaders is because we are a very religious country. We have the Christians and the Muslims. The Catholics don't believe in the formal birth control, but they have their own natural methods of birth control, which are actually effective when done properly. And we incorporate that into our sensitization messages. As well as the Muslims. Some of the Muslims don't believe in family planning, especially when it comes to permanent birth control. But when you have the religious leaders explaining to their congregation that, for example, in the Muslim faith, that these family planning commodities are to space your families, not to stop the family from happening. And that is one of the reasons why the Muslim scholars say they don't allow family planning. Some of them believe that you are stopping the woman from giving birth, and that's not the case. What you do is to space the families. So if you have a combination of all these leaders giving the correct message to our women and our girls, then I think that is one right step towards avoiding this kind of problems.
I think if we want to talk about infant mortality rate too, it may go along that line, education and enlightenment.
Definitely.
How much of education and enlightenment is your NGO putting in place?
Oh, quite a lot of it actually. Because most of what we do in terms of advocacy and sensitization, it's on maternal and child health. My foundation is called RAISE Foundation, by the way, and it's an acronym. Okay. And what the acronym means is the R is for reproductive health rights, the A is for advocacy, and that is advocacy on all our maternal mortality issues and so on, and infant health. Then I is for the interventions that we perform, S is for safe spaces, and E is for empowerment. All of these go together in ensuring basically that we have a reduction in infant and maternal mortality. And then we also, our education, the advocacy we do on education is to encourage the girl-child education. Okay. That is the most important one for us, because if you have a girl who is educated, you are starting from the bottom. A girl who is educated is likely to be empowered. And an empowered woman means she can make the right decisions to go to the hospital when she needs it, when her child needs it. And she is also empowered financially, that she does not have to wait for her husband or somebody else to give her the money for her to access the services that she needs to improve on her health as well as her child's health. So these are the strong points that we use in our organization to send out the message.
Good. Now, what do you consider to be the most ravaging ailment the Nigerian woman faces? While answering this question, I wanted to talk about prevention.
Wow. Well, my NGO was created based on my need to see how I can give my contribution to stopping maternal death. For me, I think maternal mortality is one of the things that causes the greatest death in women in Nigeria.
Not cervical cancer?
No, not cervical cancer. Although cervical cancer and breast cancer are the second commonest causes of death of women from cancer, from non-communicable diseases.
Okay.
All right, but maternal mortality takes away up to 58,000 women per year in Nigeria. Nigeria has the highest number of maternal deaths in the world compared to, together with India. We are at par with India, the number of women who die from maternal death. So for me, I think that is the biggest problem. And what is the biggest problem? Why do we have this? Because they are preventable. Like you said, I should talk about prevention. The prevention for maternal death is to have skilled services. What do I mean by skilled? Having a skilled midwife, a skilled doctor, or a skilled health worker that will manage a woman's pregnancy, manage her delivery, and manage her after delivery. Most of our women, I will speak about my state, for example. We have over 75% of our women giving birth at home. They don't come to the hospital. And most of them would die from five major causes: bleeding after pregnancy, or infection, or hypertensive diseases in pregnancy that we call eclampsia or pre-eclampsia, or from complications following miscarriages or abortions. These are the commonest causes of death from women with pregnancy-related causes, and all of them are preventable. How do we prevent them? Proper antenatal care, proper delivery, and then proper care afterwards. And this has to be a concerted effort between the government, the people themselves, and for them to be able to access the correct services that they need. A lot of our women do not access this because of poverty and lack of education. There is a correlation between education and death in women. I will give you an example. For example, the Southwest has the highest number of educated women in Nigeria. It also has the lowest number of women who deliver at home. While the Northwest and the Northeast have the lowest number of educated women or girls in Nigeria and have the highest number of maternal deaths. Can you see the correlation?
Why?
Because a woman, as I said it before, a woman who is educated is likely to go to hospital, is likely to have money, and is likely to be able to make the decisions she requires to take care of herself and her baby. This is just the bottom line of it.
Yes.
So we need to increase our girl-child education. We need to increase our hospital services and access to these services so that our women can survive. In terms of breast and cervical cancer, which are also major killers of women, one of the best ways in which we can prevent those is by early detection. Breast cancer, for example, the best chances of survival is by detecting breast cancer early. Majority of our women do not come to hospital until the cancer is in the late stage, and by that time, there's very little that can be done. But in early stages, it can be cured to a certain level. How do we detect breast cancer early? Women to be able to do self-breast examination every month, and with the aim of detecting if their breasts are different. There's a problem, they go straight to the hospital and they check. That's one way of doing it. The most effective way of detecting it is by doing regular mammograms. A mammogram is a picture, like an X-ray of the breast, that will detect a mass or a problem in the breast even before a woman starts having symptoms. So if a woman has regular mammograms, she is likely to detect her cancer, if there is one, on time to be able to deal with it. For cervical cancer, in fact, cervical cancer is one of the best examples of how prevention can be 100% effective. In cervical cancer, the changes that occur that lead to cancer can be detected years before it becomes cancer through what we call a pap smear or through some other visual examinations, which, by the way, my own foundation does. We do screening programs for breast cancer as well as cervical cancer. If a woman has regular pap smears, it detects the precancerous stage. What it means, it detects a cancer before it even occurs. And then you can treat the woman, and then there's no chance of her having cancer again. And for what we do, because the pap smears are very expensive, not everybody can access it, what my foundation does is we go to the rural areas, to the grassroots, and conduct massive screening exercises for the women in that environment. And when we see them, we're able to treat them for their precancerous cases and detect those who have early stage cancer and refer them for treatment. So these are ways in which this kind of things can be prevented.
Now, you float an NGO, you are a medical doctor, you are the first lady of the state. How have these positions enhanced healthcare delivery in Niger State?
Well, I think it has actually done quite a lot. For example, now because of the work I'm doing in the maternal mortality prevention cases, I have partnered with the foundation has partnered with the Ministry of Health, and we're working together to start a statewide program, which I'm hoping would start before the end of the year, specifically targeted at preventing deaths from hemorrhage and hypertensive diseases, which are the two most common causes of death in women. I work in the hospital, the general hospital in the state capital, Amina. I conduct clinics maybe once a week, and then theater sessions and so on. And I think that has enhanced the way the hospital so far works. We have a neonatal and maternal hospital newly commissioned in the state now where I go to work, and I think that has really improved maternal health indices within the state capital. And we're able to extend services from that hospital to the primary health care centers within Chenchaga local government. And I believe in the near future we shall be able to extend those kind of services to the other local governments in the state. And I'm working very closely with the Ministry of Health, and that has really, I think, encouraged me to continue what I'm doing, and I think it has also encouraged the staff of the Ministry of Health to also continue what they're doing.
All right, finally, we want you to address the women. They are listening to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, please go on.
Well, I think what I would say to women in general is that women are the fabric of society. They're the fabric of family. When a woman is ill, her family is ill. But when a woman is healthy, her family is healthy. So I want to, first of all, congratulate women for being what they are to their families. A lot of them do not have the support that they think that they are supposed to have, but they don't know that without them, their families won't run properly. So I would give kudos to women for that. The second thing I would say is, being the fabric of that family, I would encourage you to try as much as possible to be the best that you can be to your family. And how do you do that? Make sure you empower yourself. Education, I think, is key. For women who are not privileged to have education, I encourage you to put your girl child in school. The girls are just as important as the boys. And right now, girls are at a disadvantage. Please put your girl child in school and encourage her to be the best that she can be, because she can be that. She can even be better than a man. Although my colleague here may not agree, but the saying about what a man can do, a woman can do better, I really believe we can all do it together. But support your families by being the best that you can, and empower your girls by an education.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. My guest has been the wife of Niger State Governor. She is Dr. Amina Sani Bello. She has spoke brilliantly well about the medical lives of women now rising from the RAISE Foundation, an NGO that she floats. She was in a position to actually talk again about 1, 2, or 3 ravaging ailments affecting the Nigerian woman, and of course preventive activities that you can put in place. The program has been ClearView. I am Ojeon Bello. We hope you want to join us same time next week for another edition of the program. Bye for now.